Hello YouTubers, on this week's video we'll be doing some homemade goulash.
Well, today's another cold, wintry Michigan day. Temperatures in the 20s and down to the low teens. We've got 4 to 6 inches predicted for snow, so I thought today would be a good time to do some goulash. But before I do anything, or before I go on to that, I just want to touch base on a couple of things. I'm running a few things through my mind right now. The name on this channel is Rolling Down the RV Road, and I understand there's not much RV going on right now. I did a little bit last year and I intend to do more next year. But I'm thinking about kind of branching off, maybe having another channel just for doing stuff around the house or just for cooking, and having the RV channel for travel and that sort of thing. So let me know what your thoughts are, and if you think I should branch off and start another channel, throw in a name. I mean, I'm always open for comments or suggestions. So, but for right now, I think we're going to go on, and I'm going to make some goulash. I've never made it before, but it seems relatively simple. I've watched a few videos on it, and again, as usual, I'm going to be doing a little modification to it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come out pretty good, and I hope you like it too if you get a chance to try it. Alright, to start out, I'm going to put in, got about, we're looking at 2 pounds of fresh ground beef. Now this is going to be about a 80-20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown this, and then I'm going to drain it before I put it in my stock pot. Now while this is cooking and heating up, what I want to mention is that the primary ingredients for this recipe I got off of YouTube, and it's from a video that was created by Beverly Black. I don't like the idea of stealing ideas, and by the time you see this, I would have already sent her a comment stating that I did follow her recipe, and I duplicated it on YouTube with a couple of my own twists. Now while this cooks, what I'm going to be doing is I'll go over with you on some of the ingredients that I'm going to be using, if not all of them. And when it is done, as far as heating up or heating up the ground beef, what I'll do is I'll drain it, and then I'll add it to my pot and start adding in my ingredients. Now what I'm going to be using is approximately 1 whole white onion, and actually I had a little bit left over, so I'm going to be adding that. I'm also going to be using a whole green pepper. Now what I'm going to do for addition is I'm going to add in some sweet red, orange, and yellow peppers. I want to use them up, want to give it a little bit more color. I'll be adding in tomato sauce, about 2 cans. I've got 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes. I'm also going to have a can of tomato paste. I'm just using generics. Basically, that's what Beverly recommended, and I see nothing wrong with that. I love garlic, and so I've chopped up about 4 cloves of fresh garlic. And if I feel it needs a little bit more, I also have some chopped up garlic in a jar. I'll be adding in some Italian seasoning, as well as about 4 bay leaves. I have black pepper, of course, as well as some sea salt. I'll be grinding that. I'll add in a large box, which would be about 16 ounces of large elbows. I've got another one as backup if I think it needs more. I also have a cup of beef broth already poured and ready to go. I like to use low sodium because you'll be adding salt anyway. And finally, just to give it a little color, and this is what Beverly suggested, is some smoked paprika. That kind of brings out the red. So we'll go on and I could probably use this pan but I try to refrain from using cast iron with tomatoes. Tomatoes are kind of acidy, and it's not the best for your finish or your seasoning. And so that way, that's why I'm going to go to my crock pot. Let me correct that. My Dutch oven. I would just love to get through one of these videos without getting tongue-tied or screwing up in some way or another. But that's why you watch us amateurs. I've learned over the period of time I don't like to have my heat setting too high. The reason for that is it just seems to splatter a lot more, and I'm a little bit more partial to low and slow. Just give it time to cook. And we'll let that simmer a little bit. Try to get a little bit more sanitary and put my gloves on. All we're really doing here is just browning it. It doesn't really have to be cooked all the way through, because during the cooking process it's going to get cooked well enough as it is. Yeah, it looks like it's just about done enough. And see all the liquids I have in there, so I'm going to be draining that out. We'll go ahead and stop it for a moment, and when I come back I'll have it all drained out and I'll have it added to the stock pot. Okay, I've drained all the juices out of it, of the grease, and now I'm going to start adding in some of the ingredients. First I'm going to add the onions. These were already pre-cut. They had a deal on them at the grocery store up here in Nuevo. Now I'm also going to add a few other ones, like I had a leftover onion. And I'm going to add that to it. I'm also going to add my green peppers. I got that on the same way. Those are already pre-chopped. The best thing to do would be to chop them yourself, but again, just out of the sake of convenience, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I've got electric range, and right now, one being the lowest, I got it set at 4 out of 10, so that's like a medium low. Oh, that's starting to smell pretty good. Love the smell of the onion. And that's looking pretty good too. Now, as I said, I chopped up some sweet onions, and so I'm going to add that to, or correction, sweet peppers. See what I mean? I can't keep my mouth running straight. So anyway, add that for a little bit more color. Maybe give it a little sweetness. Cook for a moment, and then I'll start putting in the tomato sauce and paste. Okay, here's the tomato sauce. We'll add that to it. And as I said, I'm doing 2 cans. Those are 15-ounce cans. And they're generic. 1 sauce. And there's 2 sauces. Here's our petite diced tomatoes. 1, 2, and I'm going to add in the paste, which that's going to be coming a little harder. I think I'm using a little larger can than what Beverly used. I didn't even think about it when I went to the store. Stir that in a little bit. And we'll add our garlic to it. I've got 4 chopped cloves, so I love garlic. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and I've got my cup of beef broth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some of it into my can here. And I'll get the rest of that tomato paste out. Then I'll put the rest of that in. And let that simmer a little bit. I'll clean house a little bit as well. Keep an eye on that for me. Now I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. I think she said probably maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, or I'm just going to sprinkle it in here. If I think I need some more later on, I can add it in. I usually do anyway. Put my bay leaves in. Add some black pepper. Tempted to put all of it in, but there's still a little bit left. And I'll put some ground sea salt into it. This is something else. I'll add a little bit more to it later. Don't forget, when you're eating this, make sure you pull the bay leaves out. They have an awful bitter taste. And again, I say this every time, if somebody has some clue as what kind of flavoring bay leaves does, I'd appreciate it. All I know is I usually add it to all my soups, and the soups seem to taste better. Okay, I've got my molars, large elbows, and they're all going in. And just like any other recipe, especially like when I said soups and stuff like that, you can always add more. You can add more sauce or sauce or broth, noodles, or whatever you seem fit. The only thing that you'd want to kind of shy away from is add extra seasonings, because you can season too much. It's starting to look like goulash. And then the last thing, I've got some smoked paprika. That makes it more red, but I think it also might give it a little kick. Okay, again, because I like her low and slow, I'm going to turn it down to low and just let her boil like that. I'll cover it and I'll come back and check it in a little while, maybe about 15-20 minutes. Okay, it's been in there for a little while, so let's take a look at it. Looks like she's bubbling away. Very thick. stir this a little bit and I'll give it a little taste. And let's see how this goes. It's very good. The noodles or the macaroni has softened up. The peppers still are a little bit on the tough side yet, so we're going to let her sit there for a little while longer. Grab one more noodle here. That is good. I think if anything, I might add a little bit more beef broth just to make it a little bit looser. And then the other thing is, I kind of like my goulash a little on the sweet side, so I might be adding some sugar to it. But that's all up to everybody's own preference. So let me get a little bit of the broth. Because in all honesty, I did use a little bit more of a lot of stuff than you normally do. I got more macaroni, more beef, and of course the macaroni does suck up a lot of the moisture. I'll even add a little bit more here to it. Okay, now we'll come back a little bit later with it. I may or may not add some sugar, but we'll see how she goes. So we'll check back. Well, it's been in there long enough. It's done quite well, and as I said, the noodles have kind of really sucked up the juice, but it still seems to have a pretty good flavor.
Overall, this batch of goulash turned out to be pretty tasty. I did end up adding a little bit more broth as well as some sugar just to kind of take the bite out of it, make it a little bit sweeter. After having several bowls of it, I ended up taking the rest and putting them into some food saver bags and freezing it for a later time. If you get a chance to try this recipe, make a comment and let me know what you think and how I can improve it. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And most of all, thanks for watching. And again, be sure to make a comment whether you like it or not.